I am from southern Utah, and there's not much to do in the area for 18 and 20-year-olds. Me and my friends would regularly drive to some campsite and have a fire and jam to chill. One summer night, all of our usual spots were occupied, so we drove about 30 minutes south and pulled off the highway into the scrubby field. We decided to not attempt a fire and just stargaze in the back of the truck with a bunch of blankets. There was a tree about 20 feet away from the truck that we designated as the bathroom, so no one wandered away and got lost or hurt. My friend had to pee but was scared to go alone, so I went with her. Neither of our phones had a good flashlight, and it took a bit of navigating to avoid rocks and cacti. When we started to head back to the truck, we heard a giggle off to the side of us toward the mountains. It spooked us, and we yelled at whoever it was to stop being a jackass. Then we heard another voice, much lower pitched, almost like it was slowed down, to the other side of us and started running to the truck. When we got there, everyone was still in the truck bed. All of them claimed to have been there the whole time. We accused them of trying to freak us out. They accused us of the same thing. Before we went to the tree, we had been talking about skinwalkers and wendigos and other native folklore, and everyone was convinced that the two of us were making it up. At the same moment, and too late, we remembered that you weren't supposed to talk about those kind of spirits because it attracts them. We all decided to nope out and peeled into the vehicles. The peach tree was in the direct path of the car headlights. The second they come on, we all saw a huge white thing standing in front of the tree facing us. It was 8 feet tall at least and looked horseish, but on two legs. As soon as the light hit it, it was gone. We were all screaming and almost crashed into each other trying to get out of there. We only went to designated camps after that. I used to live in Utah, near the Skinwalker Ranch. Not on the reservation, but next to the reservation. When we first moved there, it was run by military, I was told. I don't know if that's true because it's privately owned now. My dad thought it would be funny to take me and my mom out the roadblocks and turn around. He spent the evening hyping it up and I liked scary stuff. It sounded fun. I was also a minor and didn't think we would get in trouble. We loaded up in my parents' flat green Jeep with a star painted on it. It was the logo for a body shop of my dad's best friend. We go out there to the roadblocks and have spotlights shining the car, dogs chasing it. We stop, and as soon as the light hits the star, the lights turn off and the dogs are called. We turned around and no one came up to the car. We laughed about how that could have gone bad. We go home and I go to bed. My room was in the basement. There was a walkout. I also had a parakeet named Kai. Early in the morning, Kai is freaking out in my room, squawking and chattering and won't stop even after I put the blanket over him. I couldn't sleep and had school, so I put him in the den, which was just outside my bedroom door and is the same room with the walkout door. I go back to bed and wake up to get ready for school. I go into the den and take the blanket off Kai and go upstairs to get ready. I come down 15 minutes later and Kai is gone. His cage is open, so I asked my brother, who's the only other person in the basement, and he was still asleep and didn't touch him. I looked for him and cannot find him anywhere. I asked my sister and mom if they have him or let him out. Nope. I start panicking because I found a drop of blood by the walkout door, and the door, which is normally locked, isn't anymore and is slightly open. I never found Kai. I looked everywhere and put his cage out. I've never heard him whistle or mew. Somehow, in 15 minutes the basement door was open as well as his cage, which the door in his cage that opened had to be pinched and pulled, and he was eaten or taken. My family says the skinwalker needed a new skin and took him. I am still heartbroken. My sweet blue boy is gone. I went back to the ranch once with my brother's friend, my now husband, and his friend that lived on the reservation. His friend was freaked out before we even left and I don't know why he agreed to go. We drove past the blocks to turn around them. No dogs or spotlights this time. And there was a giant dog in front of us. It was lunging at our car and biting the bump. My husband's friend was freaking out, covering my brother's friend's eyes and mine, and screaming at my husband to run it over that his eyes didn't reflect. It was chaos and he was so mad at us for going. There are wild dogs that run around there, so I have always chalked it up to that. When I was in 4th grade or so, my friend and I were at the backyards in my grandma's house after dark. There's a street beside her house. Standing in the backyard, you can see down the street to an intersection of a perpendicular street. My friend and I happened to notice a cat standing under the street light at the intersection. We watched it and noticed it was coming closer. We realized it was bigger than a cat, so we said, "Oh, it's a dog." Then, as we described it back then, it turned into an ET looking thing. We both screamed and ran inside to get my brother to come look. but when we came back out, it was gone. I've told this story before, and people speculated it was a skinwalker. I don't know, this was years and years ago, as I'm now in my 20s. But I do still have a memory of this happening, and so does my friend. And the fact that both of us saw it and screamed, it wasn't just my eyes playing tricks. It could have been a weird thing happening with shadows and light since it was under the street light, but I'll never really know for sure. I just keep it in my strange occurrence memory file. So it was around 5:30 in the morning, which is still very dark here. My house has an open part and a big backyard with all lights. I live with my grandparents, and my grandfather always wakes us up early and closes the gate to the backyard before going to work. On this day, it was time for him to have left, and I didn't hear any sound indicating that he was there. But a few minutes later, I heard the gate to the backyard lock. The gate is made of iron and makes a loud noise when it closes. At that moment, I thought he was there and went to take a look and get something to eat since the gate was next to the kitchen. When I got to the kitchen, I found all the lights off, indicating that no one was there. When I looked at the gate to the backyard, I saw it was closed and my little dog was on the other side waiting for someone to open it. At that moment, I thought my grandfather had maybe locked her out outside without realizing she was there. So I went there and unlocked the gate. As soon as I opened the gate, she ran into the kitchen, which was behind me. And when I turned to look at her, she had disappeared, even though I had just seen her passing by me. Anyway, even though it was strange, I ignored it and grabbed a snack from the kitchen and went to my room. When I got there, I walked through the dark rooms of the house without noticing anything. I entered my room calmly, and when I turned to close the door, I saw my little dog looking at me in a completely dark room. She doesn't usually come inside the house. I found it strange at the time and also very scary, since it was dark. So I tried to take her outside, but she didn't want to go, and I was afraid to leave, so I locked her in my room with the lights on. She wouldn't sit still for a minute, but she obeyed my commands when I told her to stop, even though she had never been trained to do so. So far, that's understandable, but when I went to open the door to let her out, she started jumping on my leg and scratching me every time I tried to turn the key. I was afraid to open it. What if it was an alarm or something? But then I opened the door, and she ran off to a distant room in my house. She ran to the second living room, which was completely dark and had 5 open doors leading to pitch black rooms, which made me very scared. I quickly grabbed my dog and ran out of the room, put her outside, and went back to my room closing the door. All of this happened very quickly. When I closed the door, I didn't hear my little dog outside anymore. The window in my room faces the kitchen, and I found it strange, but I stayed in the room. Later, I told a friend of mine, and he mentioned skinwalkers. I don't really know what it is, but from what I saw, it could be related. What do you think?